So, do you want to paint like this and have brush work that looks like this? Well, subscribe to my channel and I'll show you how. So on this painting, we're going to paint a traditional French farmhouse in the glorious sunshine. Let's go. I've drawn out the sketch, and I've used burnt umber alkyd oil paint, so it dries very quickly. So I did this last night and it's dried already. But these are just ordinary oil paints with a bit of linseed oil in, just to make them more manoeuvrable. So you can mix your colours with a brush, or you could use a palette knife. So I'm going to mix the colour here on the roof of the building. It's kind of a reddy brown, so I'll start with brown, and I'll add a touch of red in there. So you can hold your brush up against what you're trying to match the colour to. A palette knife is possibly a little bit more accurate because you don't get to the bristles of the hairs to shine the light, but it does work still quite well. You just have to twist the brush a little bit. So it's obviously too dark there, so I need to make it lighter, but the intensity of colour is about the same. So if I use white, it's going to milk up this colour a little bit. So I shall go for yellow, because that's my only two options to lighten this colour really. So we'll try some yellow in there. So it's still a little bit too dark. So it's too yellow now, it needs to have more red in it, so I can add a little bit more red. So that's pretty close. So this is actually a laminated piece of paper, so I can actually just put the paint onto the laminated paper and it kind of disappears, so that's pretty much where we're heading for. So that's how I'm going to be mixing my colours. But on this video I'm going to also show you how I actually apply the paint to the, this is actually a panel, but canvas or panel, it's the same method. So let's mix up a little bit more of that. So the more you paint, the more experience you'll get, and you'll be able to do this instinctively, but it's always still a good practice to just check your colour. But the most important thing is the tonal value, and by tonal value I mean the light to dark scale. So if I squint my eyes, this appears about here. That obviously this is a lot darker in tone than the lightest tone, but it's lighter than the darkest tone. So you've got to kind of have this in your mind. It's all comparative, that this needs to be darker than this to make this pop, which is what this painting is all about, the light on the side of this building. So again, just do a little test, a little bit too dark. Still a little bit too dark. So I'll go with that. So I want to make this painting nice loose brush marks. So there we go. I'm not going to get carried away with detail on this painting. So that's the roof done. And we'll just check this roof here, it's much the same. We can get that in, and I'm using a fairly big brush. This is a flat brush. It's a synthetic brush. I do prefer bristle brushes. I will use a bristle brush elsewhere in this painting. So by using this method and mixing the correct colour, the correct tone, that part of the painting is done. So I can move on to somewhere else. So this kind of alla prima method, which means getting the painting done in one go, it's a very quick way of getting a painting finished in one sitting. And you can remove quite a lot of paint just by wiping it off with a tissue. But I can mix this dark of the building here, and I'll use this here. So I shall go in with some ultramarine blue. So I've just got the primary colours here: cadmium yellow pale, azarian crimson, burnt umber, and ultramarine blue, and obviously some white. So same process here, do a little test, So same process, do a little test, too dark. I think I could use a bit of white to lighten this one because it will cool it down quite a bit. Still a little bit lighter. So yeah, happy with that. So again, just bold, confident brush marks. And if there's any detail that needs to be added, I can do that towards the end of the painting. And it gets a little bit more warmer as it comes towards the light. And with experience, you'll be able to do a bit of guesstimating of colours and things. But, I know that needs a little bit of yellow. It just takes practice, and the more you practice and check your colours, you'll see the mistakes you make, and you'll be able to correct them, and before long you'll be mixing the colours you need right from the start. So this scene relies on light against dark. So we'll have a go at this blue, but I think I'll use a different brush. So I'm now looking at the tin roof here. So it's blue, but it's way too dark. So let's put a bit of white in there. Let's just do a little test. So it needs to go more towards green. It's too purpley. So I can use a little bit of yellow. But it's best just go in small steps. Too dark, so a little bit of white. So it now needs more colour in there, more saturation. So it's the right tone, but it just needs to have more green in there. And you'll find some colours are more tricky to mix than others, but keep going and you'll get there. Close enough. But the most important thing is the tone. That you can get away with if your colour's slightly not there. But I found you can mix most of the natural colours with these combination of the primary colours. But occasionally it's difficult to get exactly there. But that's close enough. Happy with that. So we've got these dark areas here, which we'll just check, but they're probably much the same as here. Yeah. And at the moment, obviously, we're comparing all of this to this base I put on, which is just a burnt umber with a little bit of white, so it's got a kind of an orange feel to it. But as soon as I put the blue of the sky in, it'll dramatically change the scene. The dark under there. It's almost a black, but I can see a little bit of red in there. Again, still using quite a big brush because I want it to have a loose brushworky feel to it. Not sure that's a word, brushworky. Dark in there. And if you're a beginner, I wouldn't do what I've just done there, is kind of just guesstimated the colour and got it in, because until you're confident you're able to mix those colours, I would just check all the way through. So let's get the front of this building in. So I think definitely a clean brush for that, because I don't want to get any of that darker mix into there. So it's kind of an orange, so we'll start with an orange, so yellow and the red. So it needs to be a little bit lighter in tone, so we'll try a bit of the white in there. More yellow. Lighter in tone. Do a little test. Yeah, that's pretty much spot on. So again, let's get it on the panel in a nice, interesting way. To reload that brush. Careful not to mix into the colour above, because it's going to muddy it quite a bit. And this is an old barn, so if I got some rickety lines like this, that's good, because it's going to add to the character of the building. So we can have a go at this distant field, which is got some green in there. Test. More colour, more orange in there, a bit lighter. And these colours, they never look right when you put them on, but it's only until you put the colour next to it, at the correct tone, it will then make sense. So at the moment it all just looks like I've got the wrong colours, the wrong tones, but I've tested it, it's correct, so I know it's correct on there. So I've got to just keep going with the plan, and at the end it'll all make sense. So we've got a little bit of light in the grass there, that's pretty close. And it's very easy, particularly for a beginner, to dip into the white. You see a light colour, you start adding white everywhere, and all of a sudden you end up with a very milky looking painting. Got to be very careful with white. And greens as well, they're a nightmare. So let's have a go at this green. So we know yellow and blue. So again, let's do a little test. It's pretty close. So we want it fairly dark down here, because that will make this seem lighter. Again, get some interesting brush work in there. And it's not a bad idea to let some of that under painting to come through here in this area where the light is perhaps catching bits of grass. So when you're painting into an area that's wet, you've got to be careful because this has got a lot of white in, it'll milk that colour up quite a lot. So tread with caution. So obviously we're using a photo reference here, but just use it as a guide. And put some of your own brush work into it and imagination. So we've got a nice dark area here, again, which throws light on the scene here. That dark actually comes around there. And then we've got the tree there behind the building, which is dark, and then it gets a bit lighter. Again, always be checking it. It's distant trees, so there's a little bit of white in those because they're further away. They're not quite so saturated in colour. And orange is a great colour to tone down green. I suppose it's on the opposite end of the colour wheel, I suppose, almost, that red and green, opposite ends. And obviously I can correct that in a little bit. It's quite dark there. Actually, a nice dark side of the building there. Again, adds more light to the scene. So let's get the sky in. So I'm starting with a clean brush. So we've got a blue sky, obviously way too blue. So a nice big dollop of white. So it's a little bit too purpley. But maybe a cobalt blue would be useful. But we'll go with what the colours we've got. So I just added a little bit of yellow there, which has brought it more towards the colour it needs to be. And let's get some of this sky in. It's going to make all the difference. So we can have a nice crisp edge along there. Like I say, if it's a little bit rickety, I don't mind that. And there is obviously a chance to straighten any edges or make them not so straight if that's the effect I'm going for. Let's pop a little bit of more intensity of blue at the top. It actually gets a little bit lighter towards the horizon. So this is where we now need to be careful, because we've got to paint over these trees here. So there's no easy way to do it. It's a case of paint up to the tree, wipe the brush off. If you've got any green on there, you don't want to pull that up into your sky. Obviously you could wait for the tree to dry. See, that's what you don't want to do, muddy up your sky. And I'm just going to paint a few little marks there to paint the sky behind the sky holes coming through the tree. So I can see a little bit of warmth in that sky. So I mix a little bit of yellow into the white. A slightly smaller brush here just to give myself a bit more control. I'll mix that into the sky. So I've actually now moved to a bristle brush. But those synthetics are quite good for getting the first coat on, as it were. I don't like to think of it as a coat of paint, but the first layer of paint. And then if I switch to a bristle brush, I'll get some more, I think, interesting brush marks. So I'm wiping the brush off after every manoeuvre, because I don't want to now it's just a case of putting on these fine bits of detail. So there's a bit of light on the chimney that I've missed. There. Light on the side of the building. More light on that chimney, and then there's actually some light on the top of the rooftop there. And you can push the paint about to manoeuvre it. And I can just suggest a little bit of texture on that rooftop there without actually painting the roof tiles. Let's mix the dark, so the blue and the brown, maybe a little bit of red. So it's not black, it's kind of a dark brown. So let's get that shadow in there. And then there's a window there. So we've got the whole panel covered. So now I just need to make any corrections. So I think the chimney needs to come up a bit further. But, you'll notice I haven't done any blending. That the colours I've mixed have gone onto the panel, and that's the finished part of the painting. Messed that one up a little bit, but not to worry, we can correct it. That's the beauty of oil painting. There we go. But, don't get too fiddly with it, that's fine. So let's get these windows in, which are just a dark shape. So there's a stone there that is sticking out that creates a shadow. That's probably where the original sink would have been. So to get my darks, I'm just mixing blue and brown, a bit of red, make it nice and warm. There's a shadow under there. And under there. It must be a little bit too dark. Again, you can colour check just to have a look. Lighten it a little bit. So we've got a window there. Window there. I think we'll just have two windows, that looks fine. So there's a little bit of texture on the side of the building. So again, I can do a little test to make sure I've got the right tonal value. So if I go too dark, it's going to stand out too much. So this is just where the render has come off the wall. I don't want to lose the light on the building, but it's quite nice to have a bit of texture on this old stone. So these little final touches are what, they can make all the difference to your painting. But I've got a good base down, but I've got accurate colours, nice dark there. And that makes that part of the painting lighter. But again, check your tonal values, it's a little bit too dark. Sort that out. And there's actually some light on the grass, just coming down. Down here, just a little flick. Just a little bit of detail on those trees. So we've got some shutters which look to be white, but let's just check, because obviously it's not going to be white. There will be some colour in there. It's just some cornerstones there that are catching the light. And even these little marks, like the bit of light that's catching on the corner there, can be done with quite a big brush. So we've got a little bit of detail on this galvanised sheet. Yeah. There's a bit of rust and some lighter areas. again, just check the colour and the tone. It's all about tone. Get your tonal values right, and you'll be on to a winner. A nice dark shadow under there. Something there. It actually gets a little bit darker in this corner here, which also helps to describe what's going on. Let's add a bit of work done here, obviously. A little bit of cement or something in there, just breaks up that area there a little bit. So a bit of sunlight on those trees behind the house. So I'm just going to roll the brush onto the paper. And these are quite far away, so there's no detail really. So I'm going to use a larger bristle brush, and I'm just going to take some of those away. It's fine. So let's have a go at putting a little bit of texture in this grass. A bit of warmth in there. It really doesn't need much here in the foreground. I think I need the dark to come around here, and I think we're probably almost done. So don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. That I shall have some more demos soon, and again, like this one, limited palette, a lot of them will be, and subjects that you know, hopefully a beginner can manage. And if you want to support my channel, I have a Patreon page, which is also got plenty of watercolours on it as well, that I'm a prolific watercolour painter. So have a look at those. But it's important not to fiddle too much, because you can lose that spontaneity of what you've just created. And all of this messing about, you can risk losing the colours you've carefully mixed and put onto the panel. Just need a little bit more red on that chimney pot. So I've just got a very fine brush, which I'm just going to put those bits of detail in. This blue will work quite well, because the orange. The ricketier the better. Push that up a little bit. I think it looked better with it cleaner. It's better. Just a brush with a bit more control. Put that dark window in. Let's have a window there as well. Something there. Bit of something here in the grass. So this is just a rigger. I can just suggest a little bit of light on the grass there, which will help to draw the eye into the painting. Some longer bits of grass there. Again, be careful that you don't get all that white into the painting, because it will make a right mess. Some dark here. Just interesting textures in the foreground, that's all I need. And I could add some cows or some figures in there or something, but I think just to add something in the sky, that will just put a bit of life to the scene. So there you go. So it's an exercise in how to match the colours, how to put the paint on in an interesting way. That for the drawing, I've got another video that shows you how I use a proportional divider to get accurate drawing. That I don't necessarily use that all the time, but as a beginner it's a great tool to aid you. So don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next demo.